Good morning and welcome. My name is Paulette Maluski. I'm a program sales manager here at Kirkwood Community College, located in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Eastern Iowa. We're part of the corporate training division and so excited to have Kelly Carman here with us today. Kelly's been partnering with Kirkwood for a couple of years. She is owner of Learning Curve and Learning and Development. She enjoys meeting and working with people and has more than 10 years of experience hiring and developing teams. So you are in for a treat today. She's also got over 10 years experience designing, developing, and delivering customer service leadership and team building training to improve performance and results. She holds many credentials, including a certification in Zinger Miller training. She's a certified creating member loyalty trainer. She's a certified change management facilitator, and she holds she holds a Life Office Management Associate Customer Service designation. Kelly believes that people who engage in activities and courses to learn new things and expand on what they already know are often happier and more involved in the world around them, which is a big part of what we're going to talk about today with emotional intelligence. I'd like to point out to you at the bottom of your screen, you have an icon for a chat. This will be interactive, so be looking around for that so you can answer some of the questions. It'll last about 30 minutes and we will record it. So if you have others that you want to forward this to, you'll get a copy of the recording in the next couple business days. So again, welcome, Kelly.
Thanks, Paulette. I'm excited to be here this morning to share some information on emotional intelligence. And after our time this morning, it's my hope that you're going to better understand what emotional intelligence is, and then also the importance of it in your workplace, in your personal life. So let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, I'd like you to start off by thinking of a person that you struggle working or even just interacting with. So it doesn't have to be at work. It can be like in a social club, somebody maybe even in your family. So go ahead and get that person in your mind. And now what I'd like to have you do is take a look at this list of characteristics and identify any characteristics that this person has. So take a minute to look those over. Okay, so if you checked off a few things on this list, there's a pretty good chance that the person that you're thinking of lacks emotional intelligence. So how many of you have heard of emotional intelligence or know what it is? Go ahead and type yes or no in the comments. Do you know what emotional intelligence is? Perfect. We're getting a lot of yeses. That's awesome. Oh, we have one no there. No's. All right. Thank you for doing that. So emotional intelligence is, if you want to know the dictionary definition of it, it's the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions, and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. So basically, it's the awareness of your own emotions and moods, as well as the emotions and moods of other people. Now, sometimes you may hear referred to as EQ or maybe EI. Now, usually when we think of intelligence, we associate it with things like logic, math, and science. However, according to Daniel Goleman, a psychologist who wrote the book Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ, he says emotional intelligence is another aspect of intelligence that is often overlooked. Now, Goleman also says that if your emotional abilities aren't in hand, if you don't have self-awareness, if you're not able to manage your distressing emotions, if you can't have empathy and have effective relationships, then no matter how smart you are, you're not going to get very far. Now, research shows that a person's IQ has very little to do with how successful they are as their emotional intelligence or their EQ. Now, you probably all know people who are academically brilliant and yet are socially inept and unsuccessful. What they're missing is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is just that something in each of us. It's a bit intangible. It affects how we manage our behavior, how we navigate in certain social situations, and basically how we make personal decisions that affect and achieve positive results. Now, there's no known connection between IQ and EQ. You simply can't predict emotional intelligence based on how smart someone is. So emotional intelligence, intelligence is your ability to learn. And it's the same at age 15 as it is at age 50. Emotional intelligence, on the other hand, is a flexible set of skills, skills that can be acquired and improved with practice. Now, you probably know some people that are just more naturally emotional intelligent than others. And the good news is that if you're not one of them people, you can develop high emotional intelligence even if you weren't born with it. So that's the good news here. Emotional intelligence consists of 4 core skills, and those 4 skills pair up under 2 primary competencies: personal competence and social competence. So on the left-hand side, we have personal competence. Personal competence is made up of your self-awareness and your self-management skills. So this competency is going to focus more on you individually than on your interactions with other people. Personal competence is what we know about ourselves. On the right side, then, we have social competence. Social competence is made up of your social awareness and relationship management skills. Social competence is what we do with that information when we're interacting with others. So if we had more time, we'd go into what each one of these competencies look like in detail. But since our time today is limited, let's just start with the two. Let's just start and look at them more high level. So first of all, under personal competence, we have self-awareness. So self-awareness is your ability to recognize your emotions as they happen and understand your general tendencies for responding to different people and situations. So someone with high self-awareness knows how their emotions affect their thoughts and behaviors, and that allows them to respond appropriately in different situations. Self-management is using those self-awareness skills to choose what you say and do in order to positively direct your behavior. So someone with high self-management has the ability to control their emotions and act appropriately. So now let's look at social competence. Someone with high social awareness is able to observe and understand the emotions, needs, and concerns of other people. So they're able to show understanding and empathy for others in various situations. And then finally, we have relationship management. And relationship management is using the awareness of other people's emotions to choose what you say and do in order to positively direct their behavior. So someone with high relationship management skills, they're able to communicate clearly, inspire, and influence other people. Now, when it comes to personal relationships, it goes without saying that emotionally intelligent people tend to have strong social skills, probably in part because they're so attuned to their own feelings as well as those of others. They know how to deal with people effectively, and they're invested in maintaining healthy social relationships and helping those around them succeed. They also feel that emotional intelligence is important to a balanced life. It's basically important to every aspect of life. Now, when I say balanced, I mean it's also important to our physical health and our mental well-being. So as far as physical health, when we think of that, if you're unable to manage your emotions, you probably are not managing your stress either, right? So then this can lead to some serious health problems, such as high blood pressure, a suppressed immune system, and it could increase the risk of heart attack and stroke. And we also know that uncontrolled emotions and stress can have a big impact on your mental health, making you vulnerable to anxiety and depression. So the ability to take care of our bodies and manage our stress is heavily tied to emotional intelligence. So not just socially, but mentally and physically also. So how much of an impact does emotional intelligence have on your professional success? Well, the short answer is a lot. It's a really powerful way to focus your energy in one direction and see a tremendous result. Now, there's a company called Talent Smart. They're kind of a think tank, and they do a lot of surveys in the industry. And they tested emotional intelligence alongside 33 other important workplace skills. And what they found was that emotional intelligence is actually the strongest predictor of performance. Think about that. It's the strongest predictor of performance. So why wouldn't we want to learn more about that? So what percent of our work performance do you think is connected to our ability to manage emotion and respond to emotion at work? Go ahead and type that in the chat. What percent of your work performance or our work performance do you think is connected to emotional intelligence? Got some 100%, 70, 75, 80, 85. Good, perfect. Well, research today shows that up to 58% of our work performance, over half, is connected to our ability to manage emotion and respond to emotion at work. I know a lot of you had 90%, 85%, some bigger numbers there. But if you actually think about it, 58%, over half, that's pretty huge. It's a good reason to learn more about ourselves and emotional intelligence. So with that research, it's easy to see why EQ is quickly becoming one of the top sought after job skills. And unfortunately, it's a skill that we were never taught, but we're left on our own to figure out. So much of our schooling that we have focuses on IQ, and not enough of it focuses on EQ. I don't know if you knew this, but emotional intelligence is going to be one of the top 10 job skills in 2020. In less than 2 years, people are going to be hiring and looking at emotional intelligence. So the awareness that emotional intelligence has become an important job skill, and that's even surpassing technical ability, has been growing over the past number of years. They actually did a survey of more than 2,600 hiring managers and HR professionals, and here's some information that they found. They found out that 71% valued emotional intelligence in an employee over their IQ. And 75% said they would more likely promote a person that had a higher EQ, and 59% claimed they would not hire somebody with a high EQ if they had a low EQ. So how do you know if someone has a high EQ if you're actually out there doing that hiring? Well, there are different emotional intelligence assessments that you can give to candidates, and some of those are designed for specific levels of employment. But there's just also different interview questions that you can ask that will help determine if a candidate has high emotional intelligence. So there are ways that you can work them into the hiring process. And if you are in charge of that at your company, or do any of that at your company, I think it's a good thing to check into and to get comfortable with, because it is so important. Research also suggests that people with high EQ are more likely to have higher salaries. A recent study tested US university students for EQ while they were in college, and then they looked at their career trajectory over a course of 10 years. So they did the EQ test while they were in college, and then they followed them for 10 years. And the result showed that students who scored highly for EQ went on to have better salaries. And this was across all industries. And so there are actually statistics that are there to prove this. That study also showed that people with high EQ tended to use those skills to become deeply embedded in the company's social network. So basically what those high EQ students did over that 10-year period was they embedded themselves in the company's social network and made friends. And what that did was gave them access to more information and knowledgeable colleagues, which in turn improved their performance and then led to that higher wage. So that research also found that people with high EQ are more likely to have senior mentors, which again has a positive influence on their career. So we've talked about what emotional intelligence is. We've looked at the 4 core skills that make up EQ and how it affects the workplace. So let's take a look at what emotional intelligence actually looks like in action. So I have the competencies listed here along with their definition on the left-hand side of your screen. And so for this activity, I'd like you to read the scenario that I'm going to give you and identify the skill that this person is high or low in. So in this case, Lane. Go ahead and read this example and then write in the chat if you think Lane is high or low, and that'll be the easy part, but then is she high or low in what skill? So take a couple minutes to read through that and then chat where you think Lane falls. And these are actually real people, and these are actually real comments about people that have worked with them. Okay, I see high, but what is she high in? We have one social awareness and relationship management. She's high in social awareness, high in all 4, high in relationship management. Yeah, Lane's pretty awesome, isn't she? But actually, Lane is high in self-management. She's patient and understanding during heated and emotionally charged meetings. So she's able to self-manage herself. Says she actively listens and responds. She's sensitive, yet direct and to the point. She communicates well and thinks on her feet. And she has the ability to separate emotions from logic. So she definitely knows how to manage her emotions and remain flexible and positive in all situations. Great. Let's try another one. Now we're going to look at Craig. Read about Craig, and then again, comment in the chat if you think he is high or low, and then what competency you think he is high or low in. All right, we got some low self-awareness, low self-management, low social awareness. Well, we definitely know that Craig is low. Got some self-relationship. And Craig is low in social awareness. So in Craig's case, we see that he doesn't listen or pay attention to what's being said. And remember, social awareness is understanding where the other person is coming from. And that's whether you agree or disagree. So we're thinking about the other person now. So we said he doesn't listen or pay attention. He's also not accurate when representing other people's ideas. He's not one to socialize, and he often just doesn't appear interested in what's going on with other people. Has a hard time explaining himself so that other people is going to accept his ideas, and often unwilling to accept other people's points of view. So from what we see here, Craig has a hard time understanding other people's emotions, needs, and concerns. So great job. This activity is just a good way to see emotional intelligence in action and how you can relate what people do to where they fall on that emotional intelligence grid. So you're probably wondering, how do I know where I stand when it comes to EQ? Well, there are self-assessments out there that you can take to see which of the 4 core skills you may excel at, and then those are going to also identify which skills you could focus to improve on. Now, we won't take an assessment today, given our time, but as you look at the 4 skills and think about yourself, where do you think you might be low and have the opportunity to improve? So take a look at that chart, and if you'd like, go ahead and write in the chat where you think, which area of those 4 do you think you could potentially improve in? Now, if you're not comfortable sharing this, that's okay, but if you really want to improve your emotional intelligence, the first step is being aware. In fact, it's not only where you think you need to focus, so looking from the inside out, but you also want to look at it from the outside in and ask others. You can ask other people too, where do you think I could use some work? Got some social awareness, self-awareness, self-management. And some of you are listing two things, and when you start to work on your EQ skills, it's best to pick one at a time to work on. All right, perfect, thanks. So identifying your strengths and weaknesses is the best place to start when starting to work on your emotional intelligence. So once you've identified where you can focus some effort, it's time to go to work. So let me give you what I think is the number one thing to start doing to improve in the core skill that you've identified. Now, obviously, there are a lot of different things that you can do. And there's a book called Emotional Intelligence 2.0, and there are a lot of good ideas in that book. So that would be another place that you could start to get some other ideas. But I'm going to give you the one thing that I think you can do to start improving on the core skill that you've identified. So the first one is self-awareness. If you want to improve your self-awareness, just stop and ask yourself why you do the things you do. Asking why is a great place to start. Why are you feeling and acting the way that you are? Being able to acknowledge feelings and actions that are both positive and negative will allow you to gain valuable information about yourself and then make you more self-aware. So self-management. Breathe. Did you know that your body demands a full 20%, that your brain demands a full 20% of your body's oxygen supply? Shallow breathing deprives your brain of oxygen, which can lead to poor concentration, forgetfulness, mood swings, restlessness. And what's the first thing we do when we get in a stressful situation? We start to take shallow breaths. And that shallow breathing is going to handicap your ability to self-manage yourself. So in a stressful or emotional situation, focus on taking slow, deep breaths. Make sure that you fully inflate your lungs. You're going to find that this will come in handy in the middle of a difficult conversation. It's going to help you make you more calm, and it's going to power up your rational brain. So go ahead and breathe if you want to work on your self-management skills. The next one is social awareness. So the thing I would say there is seek first to understand, then be understood. This is habit number 5 from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. People often form opinions based on their own experiences. They don't try to stop and listen and understand others. So to be socially aware, you need to understand the other person's perspective first. You need to see the world through their eyes. And then finally, relationship management. Relationship management taps into the other 3 skills. So in order to improve your relationship management skills, you need to improve the other 3 skills as well. So you probably won't begin with relationship management if you have the other 3 skills that you need to work on. So before we wrap up, I'm going to leave you with 3 simple questions that you can use right away to help improve your emotional intelligence. So when you're in an emotionally charged situation, ask yourself these 3 questions. Does this need to be said? Does this need to be said by me? And does this need to be said by me now? The fact is, it's really easy for us to say too much, especially in an emotional moment. And I know it sounds like a very simple thing to do, but it actually can be very challenging in practice. So the way you do it is just get into the habit of asking yourself those 3 questions, especially when you're in that emotional moment. So wrapping things up, any thoughts or questions? I know we're getting down to our time here. Seeing none, I will pass this back over to Paulette.
Terrific. One question I had is if I know this is just a small segment of the larger thing that you do. And I'm reading a question, a couple questions. I don't want them to scroll away from us. One was, will you be able to send the PowerPoint out to the attendees? Yes, we'll send a recording to everyone who we have an email for. And any particular place to find the interview questions or the EQ assessments?
I would basically, there are a lot of different things out there. I would actually just go ahead and Google, and that will pull up a lot of different opportunities for you. You can find interview questions there. You can also find different companies that offer assessments based on what you're looking for, if it's a management position, that type of thing.
And you mentioned Emotional Intelligence 2.0. Does that have assessments inside it?
In Emotional Intelligence 2.0,
the book
does not have
no. Okay.
the assessment inside of it.
One of the things that I was starting to ask, and I wanted to make sure we captured the questions on the screen, was if you were to do a more extensive 2-hour session, say, on this topic, would you do more scenarios like Lane and Craig, and
yes,
dive a little deeper, a little more self-assessment included in that as well?
Yes. If we would do a 2-hour session, we would actually do the self-assessment then. So we would look at, dive deeper into what emotional intelligence is. We would look at more scenarios like we did with the 2 here, and then we would talk deeper about ways that you can focus your efforts to improve the area that you'd like to improve in.
Terrific. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We loved the interactions. Thank you, Kelly, for your expertise and your preparation. I thought it was really thought-provoking and informative.